Hey, hello. It's Samantha Tong at Labrakeeta Marketing again with one of my another expert interview. Speaking to Lindsay Cree today on social media strategy. So, Lindsay, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lindsay Cree from Create Social Media. I specialise in helping clients of all sizes across the UK work on their social media strategies. I also do training, social ads, do one-to-one training or training with companies, in person or on Zoom, and yeah, just either sometimes I do social media management, but mostly I look at the company's strategy, how they're doing, and audit that, and usually hand it over to the client to manage that. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm in North Berwick, near Edinburgh, but yeah, as I say, I work with companies across the UK.
Brilliant, thank you. And yes, I've yet to come across a client who doesn't need to use social media as part of their comms, and getting that right is incredibly important. So, Lindsay, you're my most prepared interviewee ever. I believe you have a deck of slides.
Yes, I do. I do. I'm a teacher's pet today, but I do actually already have these slides. So I did chase a little bit. It's quite a good framework to go through with clients on strategy generally.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I can share
Yeah,
my screen and
go for it.
good. You seen that okay?
I can see that. Great.
That's perfect. So yeah, so a lot of companies they come to me for social media advice, and either they're just looking to kind of review what they currently do, or they're looking to start from scratch. Sometimes they just focus on social media, but usually it's as part of a bit wider marketing plan, which again, Samantha, you'll be more involved in that part. But obviously it's very low cost. You know, you're really looking at sort of like quality communications and making connections with your customers. And this is the most interactive area of social media, or sorry, marketing, where you can get that feedback directly, you can make connections, and you can really get to connect really closely with your customers. So yeah, this is the kind of framework work I would look at when looking at social media. Be really encouraging customers to look at their goals, their specific goals for marketing, and how that feeds into the social media goals, which very much requires knowing your customers and your customer segments and building out the personas, as you'll well know in your area. Looking at the brand strategy and how that fits in with social media, looking at your specific content strategy on different platforms, and the different platforms will have different strategies. That's the idea. A lot of people obviously take the easy route and just cut and paste, but that's really not the best way to make use of it. And then obviously in all areas of marketing, especially digital, tracking performance is really important, because
Yeah.
things will just chime at different times with the customers, and you just need to get to know your particular customer, and the only way to do that is testing. And sometimes things work for some customers and not for others, and so you just need to keep trying different things. So yeah, I think I've already covered a little bit of a description of me. Yeah, just a few of my qualifications and some memberships, and I'm kind of part of, just to keep really up to date, my services. I think I've covered that as well. Strategy audits, and I do power hours. I don't think I mentioned that, where if you just got a particular problem with one aspect of social media, you can just put me for an hour. We go through that, get that sorted out on the call. So yeah, the first step, goals and marketing funnels. So yeah, if I'm in marketing, really familiar with the funnel, but it really does still apply in social media. So lots of people coming into your channels will be at lots of different stages.
Yeah.
They'll not know who you are, they'll already know you, but they're sort of starting to get familiar with you, and start talking to you, and in via likes and comments and just general engagement. That's your relationship part. And then the results part is really, if you want them, something to happen as a result of your social media. I mean, a lot of it is, and should be, brand awareness, and your customers getting to know you and connecting. There is obviously an element of positioning yourself for sales, and Getting people to come to your website. You know,
as with all marketing communications, you've got to get that balance right between your lead generation and your brand awareness. Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, they go either way. They sell too much on social media, or they don't sell at all because they don't think they should. But obviously, you know, you have to sell. Or I mean, you know, if you've got an event you're running, and also, you know, you sell more than you're comfortable with, as well on social media. You're kind of thinking, oh, I said that 3 weeks ago, and maybe I shouldn't say it again. But you know, you should, you know, keep saying it, keep saying it, keep saying it in different places and different formats across the board. So people know what's happening, because they will scroll through, they'll maybe have a bit in the back of their mind, they've seen it, but then, oh, I didn't get the details. And third, fourth, fifth time you've seen it, they might sort of make a note of the details, or take some action. So yeah, it's not bad to sell, and it's not bad to repeat yourself quite a lot. So yeah, I mean, this is just a visual description of how that happens. And a lot of your customers will not buy, they'll just see. So the ones who buy are right there in the bottom there. But they might buy in even a year's time, you know.
Hence, it's so important to do the brand awareness as well as the lead generation. It's not just the customers ready to buy now, you've got to think about the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, keep that funnel going. Absolutely. So just a wee bit more on that. It's a very simple framework, but it does kind of focus your mind on every single bit of content you have. Will have one of these objectives, really, and some of them more suitable for others. So reach, obviously, is amplifying your brand, getting yourself awareness and amplifying your brand. The other one is kind of where people have gotten to the stage of, you know, trusting you and kind of looking out for your content. So, you know yourself, if you've got, for instance, Instagram people you follow, you're actually looking for them, aren't you? You want to see what they're saying next. And even on LinkedIn, you know, people will be looking for that credible person who they know that are very useful in their content. So that's where that relationship area is. And you know, depending on the channel, LinkedIn is notorious for people don't really engage very much. But you know, people will eventually start commenting, or even if they don't, they might just even jump straight to the results.
Yes, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
You go to events and you meet people and they say, oh, I love your LinkedIn, and sometimes they're not even connected, they're just connected to people you're connected with, and they've certainly never interacted, so you don't know who's seeing your content.
Yeah, and they could come straight into your DMs and go, I've been following you for a year. Like, whoa, I don't even know who you are. So yeah, as I say, and LinkedIn is really notorious for, like, a lot of people are lurkers. So, you know, just keep, you know, if you're not getting that relationship stuff, just keep trying. But it doesn't mean that you're not being successful. So this is a part about knowing your customers. So obviously that you
recommend. That's so key in terms of not just what you're putting on social media, but which social media channels you need to be concentrating on.
Yeah, you might find that Instagram's a place where you sell, you know, B2C stuff. You know, it's more of a consumer place, and then you might go back to LinkedIn if you've got business to business clients. You know, it might be quite defined like that. You can do that.
But you might need to be on both, especially if you've got employer branding to think about. You've got to think about where potential employees are as well as your customers.
Yes, so much more so now in LinkedIn. It's about the internal branding, isn't it? Because employees get to, rightly so, be a lot more discerning about where they go and work. So they are looking for your brand in terms of how you treat your employees. Yeah, absolutely. That's on LinkedIn very much. So yeah, when I do the personas, I would really build them out to, like, almost so you have a picture of them, you know what they do, you know when they have their breakfast, and you kind of like build out that kind of when they look at the social media realistically, and then that's when you can kind of think about the times that you post and things like that. So you're getting that engagement straight away, because that's the algorithms really like that when they're on when you're posting. So yeah, just different ways of calling it personas, avatars, buyer personas. So yeah, like with anything, you don't know your customer, you can't market to them. You just can't, because same again, if you're targeting to everyone, you're targeting to no one. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, they're quite commonly said, but it really is true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or else, you know, you're just blanket talking to everyone. There's no niching or no messaging for them really. They're not going to listen because they're not being talked to.
Yes. You can't speak their language if you don't have a specific type of person you're speaking to.
Yeah, and if you're trying to talk to like a teenager, the same way you're trying to talk to a 50-year-old exec, they're just, none of them are going to listen. They're just going to, well, it's not for me, is it? So you do really have to home in on that, those specifics. And that would be demographics, psychographics, you know, like how do they, what their pain points, what their fears, what emotional things can you speak to them on? Those are the sort of like, that's the sort of gold dust for marketing, isn't it? When you can,
Absolutely. And that includes B2B. I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, that works in B2C, it doesn't work in B2B. And it absolutely does work in B2B.
yes, yeah, definitely. Everyone's people, like we're all people, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. They're human beings and they have pain points at work in their workplace that they need to solve. And that is an emotional thing.
They're also people, so they're not just robots.
No.
Like
Yeah.
something's entertaining, they're going to be more entertained and more attracted to it. And if it's the good quality thing, or you know, it's all about attracting people. So that when you have that information, it can allow you to sort of, as you said before, like definitely decide on the platforms you're using for them. It can help you identify what influencers they're gonna chime with. So, you know, again, if you're looking at the youth market, you're gonna, you know, have specific influencers who they're really interested in. And that helps determine the content, and that helps dictate the posting times as well, like I said.
And I think we need to mention that by influencers, we don't necessarily mean the Kardashians.
Oh no, no, it's yeah, it's a much wider sphere than that. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be attracting them.
It's not just about people who try and get free ice creams and free hotel stays. It's people who genuinely influence the market and are interested in your product and service. And it's just as much a thing in B2B as it is B2C.
Definitely. And yeah, LinkedIn are getting much more sort of influencing influencers in their field. And, you know, if you connect actually with, you know, really active people and, you know, high, you know, decision makers, LinkedIn actually know that in the algorithm, and they will sort of reward you for that. So the sort of more influential like people on the platforms, that's, you know, on a technical sense as well, that's going to be good for your profile. So it's got multiple benefits. It's just, here's just an example of, you know, how we'd build that out. So the right brand strategy, it's not just about colors and fonts. Obviously the strategy for social is about being authentic, human, communicating your brand values and being really clear on your USP, and have a clear focus on what you're trying to communicate, your messaging, back to your marketing goals and your business goals.
Yeah, and you have to understand what your brand is and what you stand for in order to do that on social media, just like anywhere else.
Yes, it's coming from that core. This is the communication channel, but what's the core of the business? What's the core of the marketing goals? What's the messaging and all this? It's all coming from the same place, but this is just a different avenue. And having a social brand here is kind of having a particular niche that you're talking to, developing your credibility, relationships, and then your results, but from the place of not only what you want to push out from your company, but what the customers also want to hear about.
Yeah.
So it's like a sweet spot between that, so that you're kind of talking from the same page really. So is that a bit blurry? It looks a bit funny on my screen. Sort of like looks as if the copy's gone over each other.
It does, yeah. I can read it though. I think we're
it's just about. So yeah, I've got 5 P's for brand framework. So it's purpose. So what's your brand stand for? Your brand's got to have a personality. so when that's what sort of personal branding, you kind of have to display a form of personality. You know, it can't just be, again, just like totally jargon, and you know, you've got to kind of be a little bit vulnerable. I mean, I'm not talking about oversharing, and you know, there's definitely things that, you know, you've got your boundaries and you don't want to, some people don't share their kids, and you know, obviously whatever suits you, but I think you do need to give something away that people can connect with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just whatever level that is. Otherwise, I just think you're in danger of being a little bit boring and not and just blending in. And yeah, the people, just bring your images of people. You know, they're always going to be, if it's people in the company, if it's you, and that's another element of, you know, branding. Positioning, communicating your USP clearly and what solutions you provide for the customers. Why is that unique? You know, if there's a niche, are you standing out from the other people that do the same thing as you? And the pie chart here references, it's how I usually do social media strategies, are looking at content pillars in a pie chart format. You 20%, you talk about this, 20%, 30% this, you know, that type of thing.
Yes.
In all manner of ways. Yeah, so this is what I referenced earlier, ensuring that you're the perfect balance of what you stand for, but you're not just pushing it on the customers, you're listening to what they want to hear, and you're getting that information of things.
It's not just buying my stuff, it's providing things that are actually useful and valuable and entertaining potentially.
Yeah, so you've maybe got like 10 different things the customer just is bamboozled by, and instead of just throwing your jargon at them, you're going, oh, I understand, but they don't really understand that. So let's talk in a manner they do understand. And it's just being empathetic to your customer, understanding them, because that's who you're in service of, the customers. But you do have your own agenda, so you have to communicate. So yeah, it's getting the balance. So this is another sort of visual of what kind of thing I do. That's the brand, what they want to convey. That's what customer potentially does, and then you kind of combine it into this sort of pie chart. I've got step 4 to 5 is having a compelling content strategy. So that is a detailed plan on how you use your social media content to meet the goals and address the customer needs. So that's using that to make up the strategy. So your strategy would, you know, have a combination of what stage of the funnel is it, what's the purpose of the piece of content, what's the topics, and what formats would do those jobs. And also, you obviously within the platform mix, what's the right platform. I did have to quickly change that. Still not sitting right.
It's at Threads now.
I don't even know if that's how you put it, but yeah. So yeah, going back to the funnels and the different platforms, there's obviously different stages of the funnel kind of have more appropriate things for them. So reach is probably, you want to be more entertaining, you know, pulling in new people. That's how you grab their attention. Reels does a good job with that, because it does get fed out to non-followers more than anything else in Instagram. Collaborative content, that pulls in the person you're collaborating with, followers as well. So that's a good way of reaching. Employee advocacy, what we said before about, you know, employees kind of being the brand, and you know, are they satisfied with that company's working in the company? That's another thing to reach other employees. And then the traditional sort of hashtags and now keywords is a lot more important on social media, because you know, people are choosing to not search on Google anymore. They're moving a lot more into actual platforms to search for things like TikTok and Instagram. You know, some people, they want to look up a recipe, they're going to go straight onto Instagram or TikTok now. So sort of cutting out Google really out of the equation in a lot of cases. So relationships, you know, when you're in that middle of the funnel, you want to do more education, you want to do carousels where people kind of learning much more, maybe quick tips and things like that. Live streaming, audio events, you're building communities, you may be putting up like meteor content. That's sort of like where you're not just attracting their attention, but you're wanting them to like really learn things from you, get to know you, trust you, start coming back to you more and more for your content. And then results content would be kind of quite, this is what I've got to sell sort of thing, and why. I know the buttons you use is to go directly to your website, and shoppable content, links in the bio off to other places where you kind of want them to take them off the platform and get them to do other things. Different calls to action, within the DMs, that's where a lot of the kind of sales really happens in LinkedIn. So yeah, it's just a handful of examples, hopefully, to bring it to life a bit more. So you need to be thinking about this when you're planning your content, so you know what tactics you're going to use on each of the platforms, and making sure there's a good share of reach, relationships and results content. So reach, the kind of feedback you're getting from customers is that maybe they're liking you, they're following you, that's the engagement rate. And the relationship part, they may be sharing, liking, saving, commenting. And then results, I think I've referred to like social referral, social proof. The buttons they're clicking, you can measure all that. And then, leads that are coming in directly from DMs, those are kind of the results, really.
And remember, if someone phones you out of the blue and it's a lead, ask where it's come from.
Yeah.
It's quite well, I certainly found in a few cases, I found you through LinkedIn, and I don't know, until then I didn't know them from Adam.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can get all fancy and put in particular trackable links, can't you? But at the end of the day, you just ask them, and you'll know. And I've got another thing just really about kind of different types. It's not, so I mentioned entertaining, emotive, it's good for awareness, educational, good for building credibility. Enterprising is what I'd say, but promoting your services. And then just, you want to get a mixture of all these things as well. So there's lots of things to think about, but you want to entertain them, educate them, and ultimately sell to them. Not in a pushy way, as you know, but giving them things. You maybe give them a lead magnet, or upselling again. That's the reason why a lot of people are on social media as well. You have to keep their business going. So you have to get a good mixture. And what I do for clients is I'd sort of break down every single platform for them, and it wouldn't be a cut and paste. It would be very different for each platform. Would have different tactics for reach, relationships, and results. And finally, really, you're tracking performance. So obviously, these things are all just about testing, measuring, refining. Just keep going round this loop. I can't seem to go down there. Just going, testing things, testing the formats, the time of day. Is it going to be a video or an image or a graphic or infographic, carousel? Is it a photograph? Does it have people in it? Does it have you in it? Does it, I'd steer clear of stock images personally, but sometimes you have to. But people just generally relate a lot better to, the real people in the business. So just constantly refining, testing, measuring, reflecting, refining, testing, measuring. So once you've got the results, it's not going to give you the answers. You obviously have to do your own kind of like churning through what you think about that made it do well, and just keep doing that process, really.
And don't base it on one individual post either.
Yeah.
Because you need to look at a broader number of posts, because there's always an element of luck of the draw, as well as the content, the time, and all this kind of stuff. Because if the right person sees it, it'll do really well. If for whatever reason most of your target audience is doesn't happen to be on that particular day, or you know,
Yes.
that particular post might not do well, but it wasn't anything to do with the post itself.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you think, oh, well, this month the photos have done well, but next month the photos haven't done
Yes.
well, the videos have done well. So yeah, I mean, you're just going to collect. You're going to collect, and you're going to obviously, if you really like doing video, that's great. You're going to keep doing video, but you know, it's just going to be. It has to be an element of what you enjoy doing as well. So if you absolutely hate video, you know, it's got to be realistic in terms of your time and what you like doing. But yeah, there are things that, like, yeah, video will do well. You know,
Yes.
photos of yourself will do well.
Yeah.
So I would always just be trying those things, and if you initially don't like them, you will potentially get more comfortable with them. So
Yes, I can speak from personal experience on that one. I absolutely hate having my photo taken. I
like,
absolutely it wasn't very comfortable when I first started doing videos. But
there's
I'm getting more and more used to it. And well, certainly the video interviews, I've been doing this for a few years now, so I'm completely comfortable with this.
yeah.
I wasn't when I started, and doing videos and putting myself out there, especially for a small business like mine, where you know I'm the managing director, I am the face of the business. Got to do it really. Got to force yourself.
You find it's worth the effort. These videos that you do,
100%, yeah.
you get a lot of inquiries and things from it.
Yeah, yeah. Video, I find videos and anything with my face in it is, as a general rule, is the best performing content.
Yeah, that's what I find. And you know, sometimes you'll 10 posts, you know, for a client, and it's like quite potentially quite dull, kind of. And then you put one picture of the person up, and it just absolutely floods with
Yeah,
comments, likes, which, you know, it's a little bit frustrating. You're like poring over these posts. But yeah, it doesn't mean to say that, you know, they've not been read, looked at, absorbed. But people will just want to like a picture of you because
and people like to buy from people they feel like they know.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
you're putting yourself out there in video and images, as an individual, on an individual level, not just the company
yes,
level, then they feel like they know you.
yes. And I think even in a small team as well, I found that
Yes.
it's quite, you can get quite a good rapport in a team, and that comes across really well. You think, oh, that's a great team, and you're going to want to do business with that team because they seem so friendly and, you know, like just up for it kind of thing. So yeah, I think that really just getting the people involved. Otherwise, you're just a brochure. You're just a kind of moving brochure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, you know, there's so much you can do in social media that's creative and, you know, connects. And yeah, a lot of people sort of forget about the engagement elements. So instead of, like, I didn't really talk about it here, but, you know, really kind of talking and connecting to people is just as important as posting. So going in and like making connections and, you know, like, talking.
Yes, the business development area. And funnily enough, I do have a video specifically about this is for LinkedIn, but specifically about the business development element of LinkedIn
Yeah,
and building those connections and how you build those connections and all of that kind of stuff.
yeah, that's really, really important because LinkedIn algorithm will really reward you as well. If you a comment is really worthwhile, even you're making the comment and their post goes on to be a great post, that's, you know, it's actually really good for you. You don't understand how much it reflects on your profile. So that's really important. And yeah, just things like at the end of posts, just kind of making sure you remember to say, and what do you think about that? Or is there experience you've got like that? And I know you're not always going to get the answer and you might get radio silence, but just be prepared for that. And just, you know, but sometimes people just go, oh, well, that's fine, great, that's really useful. And they just walk away. But they don't realize that you want the comments. And it's not like engagement bait where you're going, please can every 5 people do this? But you're just, you know, if you encourage a bit of comment and you sort of tell your audience that that's what you want, then they're much more likely to do it. And so, you know, you once you say, oh, like, you know, like this, if you can relate, or, you know, that's touching on a bit too much baity, but you know, things that just generally encourage, like the polls are always brilliant. You know, I mean, I know that kind of people may be getting a bit tired of them now, but I do love LinkedIn polls because, you know, if you put a bit of a meaty description, and then you have has to be an interesting poll as well. Like, it's not just what you have for breakfast.
And
Really
it's usually at least 2 pieces of content because of the poll, and then you can do a post about the results if there's interesting.
Exactly. Make use of that feedback, like, because it is genuine customer feedback you're getting. If you don't know what to do a sort of LinkedIn live event, I'd be thinking, right, I'll just put a poll up and see what people want to hear. It's really useful, as well as, you know, getting the engagement and hearing from people. And just, yeah, if you can get them not just to vote in the poll, but actually like say something as well, you know, about it, then you can get a bit of a debate on the topic as well. It's really useful. And on Instagram as well, you know, and stories, there's loads of little engagement buttons and things that, you know, PR is kind of like, oh, if you're scrolling through, can't resist it, you know, press the button, you know, it's so easy. And then that just kind of pulls people more into your world.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So that was the end of my presentation.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much.
No bother at all. No bother.
So do you find that do you find that it's not just necessarily small businesses like me that need this sort of help? Actually, big businesses need help to go in and actually look at more detail that's specifically at their social media strategy.
Yeah. I think there's 2 different strands. Small businesses, they kind of need a helping hand to do it themselves, because realistically they may not have the budget for a separate person to do it. So I would help them either with the Power Hour, or just look at doing an audit, or sometimes, you know, if it's a, you know, slightly bigger personal business, they might do a strategy, and then maybe I'd follow up with a little bit of coaching after that. And then the sort of bigger businesses, they are either doing nothing, or they don't know what they're doing, if it's right or wrong, or they're just trying to do absolutely everything. They've been on every platform doing, you know, they're just absolutely burning out, because what's the point? You know, some of them, they don't need to be on TikTok, they don't need to be on, you know, certain ones really don't need to be on Instagram, you know, like, if you can just pick the platforms that are most relevant to you.
Yeah.
You know, some of them will have maybe get an intern or a marketing assistant or exec or someone. They may not have the knowledge, the sort of specialist knowledge.
Yeah.
So come in and maybe
I see that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, they know about their marketing, and they're very enthusiastic, and they're probably full of ideas, but, you know, there's still quite a lot to know about it.
Yeah. Need that guidance.
Yeah, so I can sometimes give them that guidance, and they're good to go. They just need that kind of, this is how you do it strategically. So yeah, that's how I can sometimes help them.
And I guess for some very small businesses with very little in the way of marketing budget, it is the majority of what they're doing is social media.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the sort of digital marketing channels are free, you know, doing SEO, not so much the advertising, obviously, but this is the biggest chunk that's free. I suppose you've got your content marketing as well, don't you? And you're writing blogs and your website, and a lot of it is free, but this is probably the quickest way, I would say. Once you've stepped back and done the strategy and you're sort of good to go, it's probably, for me, the quickest way.
And it's also the quickest way to get you if you're doing your content, you know, your blogs and you're getting your website, the quickest way to get those links out there for people to become interested is social media, especially for a really small business.
Yeah, because I think it used to be websites people went to, but I think more so now you just go straight to their social media platforms, because websites, probably guilty myself, you know, you put the website up, you think you've got everything in there, and you kind of walk away. Unless you're doing a blog, it can be quite static, but
yes,
and it is.
And that's something that that is something to, I know that's not social media in itself, that is something that if you've done that, don't please.
Yes.
And if you're creating content for social media, you've probably got blogs that you can start putting on there and make sure it's not static.
I know, and I'm probably the worst for that at the moment, but yeah, absolutely. And when you come to people's website, they're usually out of date, aren't they? No, you just kind of think, well, that's out of date, or they don't have what's going on. They don't really have. Some of them have feeds in from the channels, like
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
but not always. And the news can be shockingly out of date, and so people kind of just unless they're really on top of it, may as well just go to social media because that'll be up to
yes.
date.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's not that unusual that you go to a company's website and see, oh, they've got a blog, and the last article was in 2014 or something.
You're like, well, that's a bit out of date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back again because you think, oh well, that's an out of date website. So you can quite quickly create a bad impression on there. And obviously for the social advertising, it's crucial that your website's up to date. Because it needs to be like really good for mobile. It needs to just be kind of absolute prime example of a website for people to be taken onto that and taking action from the adverts. And I know that a lot of people do like separate landing pages, probably for that very reason, that come off the ads. But if you're sending them to your website, it needs to be spot on.
Absolutely. Get that right first.
The ads,
brings on to another point, because okay, so some businesses are only going to have the budget to do organic social media, which is the non-paid for. But if you can reach that, you can only reach people that you're connected to, or people who are connected to people who are engaging with your content. Whereas there are a lot of people out there who you probably want to engage in some way, shape, or form. So if you're creating this great content, ideally you want to get it out there further, don't you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite shocking actually. There's probably a lot of the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, if there's a business page, which it has to be if you're on a business, it will just really feed out to about 2 to 3% of your current followers.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. Yeah,
the whole space, but yeah, it's only going to be feeding out to a very small amount of people. So that's the other reason for just don't be scared of like just repeating yourself, repurposing content. Just take the content you've done 2-3 weeks ago, put a different image on it, put some different copy on it, just mix it all up. People are not going to go, oh yeah, Samantha said that a month ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I say this all the time to people. You will get bored of your message long before your customers even start to remember you.
Exactly. And I know I still put out pictures from a photo shoot probably a couple of years ago, but I'm so sick of them. But people do probably, some people never seen them, so yeah, definitely don't worry about using it all again. But yeah, just in terms of that reach thing, yeah, so that is why they do that. Obviously, the platforms want to make money, so they deliberately restrict the reach, so you'll pay for it. So
yes,
but it's definitely not a case of just doing the advertising without the organic, because if somebody is coming through your advertising and they have a look at they come onto your platform and they see that your platform's really bad, they're going to be like, no, it needs to be both, and that's like frustrating because you just want to get the reach, but you actually have to put the work in as well.
Yes.
So that you're sort of like demonstrating that you are an active company, and you're live, and you're very current, and you're currently talking to your customers, and you're being consistent. Yeah. So when you're up to date, so if you're going to the website, you're finding that they're finding you're out of date. They come to your social media, they want to find it's up to date, or else they just give up on you completely.
Yes.
Nothing's up to date. I'll just go somewhere else. So yeah, they might give you that chance of like, okay, the website's not up to date. I'll give them a second chance. I'll go on their social media, or the other way around. But they won't give you like a third chance.
Yeah, but ideally get both right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get them both right. Excellent. Oh, thank you so much.
All right. No bother at all. Been lovely speaking to you.
You too. And before we go,
Yeah.
do you have anything that you'd like to that you're doing at the moment that you'd like to talk about? Anything you want to push?
No,
If
but
that's the word. Anything you want to plug?
yeah, I don't no, I didn't get this prepared, but I mean, I could probably do, if people come through your website, I could do some sort of discount, like maybe a 10% discount or something.
Oh wow. Awesome. I will put your
Love
link. I will put your link on the website when this goes up. So if you're
it.
watching this on YouTube, go to my website, it'll be there.